Wake up, it's time to see. To go, the system set your mind free. Normalize and trust on a mission. Exposing frauds, revealing the illusion.
This is the fraud department.
Behind the curve, see through the lies. A master system, open your eyes. For the conscious, for the bold, for the free, we break the chains.
Here go the matrix. Here go the matrix. Here go the fraud department.
Welcome back. How's everybody today? If you're new here, my name is Cameo.
I'm Aiden.
And together we are the fraud department. So James Brown told us you got to pay the cost to be the boss, which is cool, but I don't think anybody ever really told us what the cost was. It's like every everybody wants to be a CEO. Everybody wants passive income, 6 figures, entrepreneurships, influence. Everybody wants to be that guy. But tonight we're really asking, what is the cost? And I think so. A lot of people realize that there is a cost. They're just not ready to pay that invoice when it comes. So, because every level has a tax, and it keeps going up. You can't spell matrix without TAX. So welcome to the fraud department.
Yes. I like that. You can't spell matrix without TAX. That's real.
Yeah, I thought about that earlier. That kind of just came to me earlier. I was really thinking about it. But yeah, like everything.
Talk about language and stuff. So.
Yep. And it's like, even if you are a business person, it's like, even when people think they want to be a boss, owning a business is, a lot less freedom than you thought. It's like you buy a house. It's like, congrats. Now you have taxes, insurance, maintenance, HOA, and even if you own nothing, you're paying rent forever. So either way, the matrix gets paid, The matrix gets paid either way. It's just a matter of, as you start to achieve certain success levels, which tax are you going to be paying?
And think about it like this too. They make it illegal to be homeless at this point. Like all the taxes on loitering, existing, not being able to be identified, being caught at certain times in certain places, and so you'll pay that tax in jail. You pay that tax through the legal system. So even if you're not doing anything wrong.
Yep. A lot of people a lot of people really don't actually want to be a boss or like the CEO of a business. They really just want the respect, the money, the flexibility that they believe that being a boss provides.
I think if you're living in a system where you have so much control taken away from you, it's like you perceive that you have control. I think it makes a lot of sense that people naturally urge to be a boss when they've, are basically getting pimped every day. So, who don't want that?
We'll break that down a little. We'll get to the pimping later, the pimping segment.
That is the question the Matrix asked us.
Right. Yeah. Because, and the thing is too, everybody wants to be a boss until payroll comes due. And let's differentiate too between, quote unquote, being your own boss, or like, you have a lot of solo entrepreneurs out here that are creating their products, creating their art, whatever it is. They're selling those things, hustling those things, like all of that is great. What we're talking about is those people that, and good job. You're the boss of your own life. You can kind of make your decisions, self-employed, have a little bit of free, have those freedoms and things like that. But we're really kind of want to focus on in this segment about those quote unquote people who want to be a boss, and they just, take it too far and they're not really ready. I mean, I think the statistic is somewhere in the 90 percentile, of businesses that get started end up failing because people are not prepared for it, just like they're not prepared for other things. So don't get anybody else involved in your nonsense. You know what I'm saying? Unless you're fully prepared to pay that cost. And we see a lot of times in our culture now where people are like, oh, well, I'll just file bankruptcy. Oh, well, I'll just do this. I'll just do that. So when the invoice comes, when the invoice shows up, they don't want to pay it. So in my eyes, you're not a boss. You're fraud.
Think about it like this too. A lot of times being an entrepreneur is just another avenue to getting attention, fame, and success, quote unquote, perceived success. So if the idea is to have perceived success and ownership, then whenever that falls through, you still have the clout to make money off of, to pay back your debts, still have that luxurious lifestyle, to still go be on Housewives, or whatever other show you might want to, take your talents to. So, it's not really about being a boss for the sake of being a good manager, helping people, feeding people, making things, it's just about getting over. And that's just the system that we live in. And I don't really want to blame any one particular entrepreneur because, the system is the problem.
It's the system, and we're going to get to that too. The system isn't a system without us participating in it. So you jump in where you're not ready to jump in, and then you FAFO, and so let's talk about one of our fair. And speaking of which, and then and you're all on TV like you're a boss and this and that. No, you're a fraud. Pay them people.
I think it's like, do we call them a fraud if you committed fraud, or are you a fraud because of your lack of holding up your end of the bargain? You know what I'm saying? Like, where does the line, or do you have multiple lines that she's crossed? And if you don't know what we're talking about Atlanta entrepreneur Pinky Cole and her, string of vegan restaurants that have, taken over the country at this point. But based in Atlanta, most of them have shut down, unfortunately. But yeah, her husband is also an entrepreneur I think he has a Philly cheesesteak business. And so, they've been making a lot of money. I think she said somewhere like north of 60 million in total, but the debt just ate everything up. And so, there's been a lot of controversy. There's been lawsuits, unemployed.
So $60 million, and you can't pay them people they last little $200 check, because that's part of it.
That's revenue. That's not profit. That ain't profit. It's not a profitable business. Yeah.
And
right now she's focused on paying the IRS. She is not worried about paying them folks no money. Okay, she paying sick.
That's the real boss.
Exactly, and that's what has really got people in a stir at this moment. So according to our good friends over at Channel 2, she making $6,000 a month during bankruptcy, and
well, that ain't that much, but
the point is that she got a lawsuit filed saying that she owed $87,000 in past due rent, and that's just for the property. She declared bankruptcy this year in 2026. And so, there's a lot of issues surrounding these, all these restaurants she had. And, according to this quote, she told the radio she's probably made like $60 million, but the debt is so high. So, like you said, a lot of these companies that are Fortune 500 are making so much money, but they'll still file bankruptcy because it's not profitable. Like OpenAI, ChatGPT in and of itself isn't profitable yet. All the money that people are spending on there. So just think about that.
And I don't understand when a lot of these entrepreneurs say that, oh, you're all the debt, but they're passing all of the costs off to the consumer. So
let's talk about that. So I went on Uber Eats last night.
You can't even go to a restaurant nowadays. I mean, you can't even go buy a candy bar without them asking you to tip before you check out. Go
Uh,
ahead. So say what?
so in preparation for this episode, I went to Uber Eats last night to see what the current price of a slutty vegan burger, meal is. And right now they have burgers upwards of $30 on Uber Eats before delivery. That is just a subtotal. That is the listed menu price. And I just thought that was insane. It's just something called the Slut Deluxe. I don't know. Most of the burgers are like I think around 20, 23, 25. But I remember when we were in the teens at one point. I first got into Slutty Vegan when I was living in the West End. I went to a Walmart event hosted by 1079. They were just giving out free burgers, hooking the community. Um, and then now we're at a point where you paying $40 just to get in and out of there. Not to mention all the add-ons, drinks, desserts, and all the other stuff that they try
That's
to sell.
absolutely insane. And all you're selling, and this is, and I did try one time. It wasn't earth shattering. I prefer farm burger to any of that. But you're not even making like this great meat patty.
It's
It's
beyond
just a
me.
Beyond Burger
It's
with some
beyond
sauce on it.
impossible me. But that's why it's so expensive because think about every time I go to a restaurant, I've been to Farm Burger, some of these other places that sell non-vegan food, and they're impossible burgers versus the actual house-made vegan burgers. They're always more expensive.
Right.
So when you don't do anything in house and you sell kind of BS products on the back end, it's not going to be sustainable. So, I was just highlighting here that, she's been
But
in,
at the end of the day, the owner, the boss, is always going to eat, right? They're going to,
but like I said to
a
you
corporation will lay off, 10,000 employees and still take their $1 million bonus
mm-hmm.
while tightening up, saying, oh, profits, and then passing even like in the airline industry. The airline is now, in order to increase their profit, it's already a small profit margin, but now you've got this culture of, but a la carte. Everything is like kind of this a la carte service now, where you've got to pay for, unless you're going to go ahead and pay, your top tier airlines, like your Delta, and even they have reduced fares and things like that now. But now it's like, even when you go to the airport, you got to print your own bag tag. You got to check in yourself. You got to print your own bag tag. You got to go drop it on the thing. And don't be in, like, say, a place like Europe where, you can't even check in at the airport. If you need some help or assistance at the airport, $55. $55 on Ryanair to check in at the airport. And why do they do it? Because we pay it. We pay it. So, but I'm sorry, I didn't mean to diverge, but going back to the tip culture, it's like, what are we tipping for now? It used to be that tipping was for service, exceptional service. Now people get tipped just for simply existing.
Right. I walked into the new vegan burger spot in Atlanta. Shout out to Mission Burger. This is not a paid ad, but I walk in, I go to the counter, 2 square iPads facing me, and there's a nice lady there smiling, welcome to Mission Burger. And I start, I know I want to order, like, hey, can I get she's like, first time, huh? Yeah, go ahead and press the button down there, bud.
Let me help you. Let me show you this time how to place your own order.
I'm like, oh,
and then you have to tip, and then it's not even that you're tipping for no reason. Not just that. You got to tip before you even get before you even get what you're gonna get. Like the tipping.
Don't get me started. It's like, what are we here? What are we here doing? What are we here doing right now in 2026?
It's just more like appreciation. So is it appreciation, or has it become wage replacement? Because in some countries they pay. Tipping is not a thing. For even a sit down restaurant, they pay their people an actual salary and wage, or whatever you want to call it, with benefits and all the things that they need to be great. And
I mean, think about all the things that have. Think about all the things that have how many times we've gotten like denied from tipping, and they're just like, no, no, like we don't take that here. Like it's happened plenty of times where it's like, okay, well, what do we do now? Like, your whole mindset is like shifted, especially when it happens for the first time. But yeah, like anywhere you go, you really have to ask because it's so different. I feel like in a country, in a society, really a culture where the expectation is so minimal, it's like, why am I now giving up more of my dollar for less service?
Well, that's what the whole matrix is about. It's about you giving up things. It's about you putting in, it's about them taking. I mean, even if you think about education, we spend 13 years learning obedience, permission, schedules, all for this, this delayed gratification, this delayed promise of,
Right.
oh, you're going to get a job. Oh, you're going, do all these things. And we're not even going to get into higher education. Are we going to get into higher education?
Oh man, we can get into it, but I think we need to. I mean, speaking of higher education, since we're on the topic of
Like, were we
Pinky,
educated? Do you get, and we talk about this in the book some, it's like when you talk about the matrix and preparing all of our offspring and all of our generations to also enter the matrix, are we being educated or are we being conditioned and programmed? Because when you're in the school system, they just teach you a very little bit of what you need to know. Of course, we need to learn how to read and write and understand things, but then after that, they just teach you obedience, like I said, schedules, and shout out to all of our teachers in the matrix. I feel bad for a lot of teachers because I feel like most teachers go into the education system with the best of intentions to to make a difference, to really, really help educate children. But what it ends up becoming is that it's just matrix preparation. It's just preparation for the end of the year assessment. It's just enough for us to know, keep it for us to learn how to stay in line within the matrix. So it seems like it's just a bunch of programming. And then, I know a lot of teachers who are frustrated by the fact that I can't teach what I want to teach. I can't teach the way I want to teach. I have to teach from this curriculum. I have to make sure that they can regurgitate these things on a test at the end of the year. Because here comes the matrix, here comes the government and everything, looking for the numbers, looking for metrics, matrix, and matrix equals metrics.
right, and the number one metric is dollars, and so the more money you can get, the more improvements in test scores year over year. That means the principal gets that award, teachers get those awards, the school keeps getting paid. Unfortunately, I mean, we don't have to get into this, but the more special needs students that they can get on the on roll, the more supplemental money they can get from federal operations. So all these things, it's like really going to push you this way or that way. You're either going to be stellar or you're going to need some type of rehabilitation. And that is just,
and let me say this too. Like I said, you pay the cost to be the boss. We're not here to drag Pinky. She's obviously a little bit more in the spotlight, but this is happening all over the place, everywhere. But her situation is a good example of, like what can happen. You know what I'm saying? Like people love all these highlight reels and, everything looks great until you see and they love bringing in all this revenue until you see the operating expenses.
right.
And it's,
I mean, think about it like this: like you go over to your friend's house with the big pool, and they got they barbecuing and everything, and then when y'all leave, they the ones that got to clean it all up. They the ones that gotta actually maintain that space in order for you to enjoy it for a couple hours on the weekend. You know what I mean? A lot of people
and there's a cost to that. Whether you use that pool or not, that pool has to be bad. Like it's like every time you level up, let's say you have a nice fancy house with a pool and everything you want to pool. Well, guess what? That pool has to be maintained. Maintaining a pool at a house is expensive.
Right.
And then you have to have insurance.
Oh, I'm gonna get into the insurance part of this bit.
Yeah, you have to have more insurance because it's more liability, more risk. You have to have more insurance for that. Let's get into the insurance. Cute
I
up.
mean, just real quick, just going over this one of these last headlines. One of our houses was seized over here in Loganville back in April by the management company. And so, this is also a part of like not only the personal filing for the bankruptcy, but also from the business side. Because when your things aren't set up in, separate order and you're doing fraud on both sides, things just end up toppling down. Whereas a lot of people that end up being, these CEOs and or they start some type of startup company, they're able to keep things isolated that they never go down. Even these
And
Bitcoin.
didn't you say something earlier when we were talking about there's also some federal involvement with the PPP situation? There was some
Yeah. I mean, this is one of the big issues that she's dealing with right now is that she got an SBA
because I
loan.
haven't really heard about them going after anybody that
Oh, but they're gonna go after the big names. They're gonna go
yeah.
after the big names. So yeah, of course, like they're definitely going after people, but a lot of times it's the spectacle of it. So there's only so much you can do once you've already done committed the fraud. You know what I mean? Like it's kind of.
Now, what fraud do you feel like she's committed? I mean, bad entrepreneurship, bad leadership. I don't know if those rise to the level of fraud. Where do we feel like
I
the
guess
fraud
I guess
is?
it's not fraud, but I guess if you have to pay back your debt, then paying back a debt is a debt. So apparently she has one of the COVID economic impact loans.
Yeah.
And so for her bankruptcy, that's kind of one of the things that she's had to change structure. So one of the things that she was talking about was how she had to, I guess, not have ownership of Slave Vegan for like 40 days, but now it's back.
So she's using loopholes and things like that to kind of work
Yeah,
through, kind of same thing that the
right.
other folks do have done all the time.
Right, and I think this article just kind of go over how those loans worked in general and why they gave them out. But I mean, at the end of the day, I mean that's not fraud in and of itself, but in the sense of not being able to keep things on. I mean, if you were a employee, you would feel like it's fraud. If you were when you talk about hey slut, you would think it's fraud, all right? Because they had to act so happy and so like welcome to the A, and you ain't getting
And
no
I
pay.
know them people. I know the thing is, like I said, I didn't patronize those establishments
I
often, but
did.
I did
I
used to
did.
drive by and see the line out the building. So I know those employees were working like insane. I know that was crazy work that they were
Yeah.
doing just to even even be there. But so one thing I also wanted to touch on is that someone had asked me the other day, like, a lot of people talk about, well, who runs the matrix? Is it this who governs what we do and why we do it and how we do it? And is it this, is it the Illuminati? Is it the Rothschilds? Is it this group and then that group? And I said, no, no. You're gonna be
No.
surprised at who it actually is. I'm gonna tell you who runs the matrix and who decides. Here we go. Hold on. Wait, hold on. Let me get it. Let me get this queued up first. 1 second. I'm not as good as this part. Okay. Let's see. Share screen. Okay. First of all, let me just. Am I doing this right? No, I wanted to share this. Let's see. I need to pause it though. 1 second. Dang it! I didn't do this right because the thing is, you gotta have. 2 seconds. Don't leave us. Okay. Let me just go ahead and share. It's gonna, and then I'll take it off. Okay, there we go. Here we go. Let me know. Can you see it?
Yeah, I can see it.
Okay. So what we're gonna do.
Are you playing it or?
Oh, okay. So I need to. Sorry, I need to
Yeah.
add it to the stage. Sorry. I didn't do it good. Okay, here we go. I think I got it now. Let's see. There we go. Is it sharing?
No.
Okay. There we go.
What are you trying to show? Because it's got the Kiki
I'm
Palmer.
sharing the. I know I'm sharing the video.
I don't think it's sharing, Mom. So yeah, it's not sharing.
It's not showing?
No. What are you trying to show? So we can just move on.
I was trying to show the insurance video. Thank y'all. Sorry for the technical difficulties.
I got
All
it.
right. Thank you. It's like it kept moving the Instagram to another tab. Turn the volume up or unmute.
His premium out on time every month, same day of the month, like clockwork. Okay, thousands of dollars of premium for decades. Okay, for flawless driving. And when they finally get into an accident, okay, then what we'll do is
We're gonna use the premium to pay for the accident, right?
hell no. That don't-
Ooh.
Actually, we're not going to use the premium at all. We're going to charge them an additional $500 to $1,000, okay, that they have to pay at the maintenance shop before we even get involved. Okay, they got to do that. We're gonna call that the deductible. Okay, they got to pay $500 to $1,000 more before we do anything. Okay, then after we pay for the accident, but not really, because they have been paying us for decades and haven't got into no accidents. Then what we'll do is when they come back to us after their first accident in 15 plus years, we're gonna raise the premium. We're going up. Somebody say raise. Somebody say raise. Okay.
Raise.
All right. Any questions so far? Any questions?
I got a question.
You.
So we're gonna charge them a premium every month for coverage, and when they finally need the coverage, we're gonna charge them an additional $500 to $1,000 to provide the coverage that they're paying for anyway.
Yes. Yes. That's exactly what's happening. They're gonna do it. Look, by the time they find out how stupid it is, we'd have been fucked them for years anyway.
Damn, this shit sound kind of unfair. This is crazy.
It'd be over. It'd be over. We got a question.
I got a question.
Go ahead.
Why the fuck would anybody do this? This is stupid as fuck.
Because I got the police involved. If they don't have it, they going to jail. I didn't already thought it out. I got 12 with me. They need us. We don't need them. All right. Y'all pissing me off. Okay. I'm saying, okay. You.
So you know how like some drivers are like almost perfect and never have accidents at all, right? Would there ever be any instance where we like reward those drivers and like pay for some of their premiums or get them some money back or anything?
We ain't giving shit back. We are only takers. We ain't giving nothing. We just taking, no give. We are strong arming these fuck niggas, man. Come on. All right. No more questions. Let's get out of here. Car insurance on 3. Here we go. All right. So
All right. So
I don't
So
always
first
watch
point-
the video, so it makes it better.
this is this is the fraud department. So this was funny. There's always truth and humor, but I do want to make a couple of points is that there are instances where they will return premium. For example, I know that companies like, say, I used to be a State Farm customer, and they have returned premium if they don't have to pay out too much. But State Farm is a mutual company, so that means all the insureds and the homeowners, they own the company. So when there's excess, that premium gets returned to them. Now, a company like Allstate is publicly traded. It's not a mutual company, so they answer to the shareholders. So when there's extra money, that's called profit. Okay. And it gets divided, the shareholders are the ones who benefit.
Dividends.
Yeah. So that's number one. Number two, insurance companies don't charge a deductible. They just pay out anything above the deductible. It's called a shared risk. I mean, if there was no shared risk, there really, people would be a little bit looser with filing claims and things like that. So that's just a couple of points. But I bring that video up, and that video really had me crying when I first watched it. But I bring that video up because what people don't realize is that everything we do, every rule, every law, all the things are based upon insurance company direction. They're the ones that run the matrix. Okay. How I set up my business, what signs I have to have. If the floor gets wet, you got to have that wet floor sign. Otherwise, insurance, you know what I'm saying? If somebody gets injured, if you didn't have that wet floor sign, insurance ain't going to pay out. Okay. The Strait of Hormuz, the whole Iran situation, those ships and stuff, they would not move, shut down all of the, half the world economies. Because why? Because insurance said, if you do this, we're not going to pay. Okay. So, and even when you look at even something as simple as like auto insurance, everybody want to be the boss. Everybody wants to ride around independently and in they whip and, low riding and 6'4" Impala, and all the things, being great. And there's nothing wrong with that. However, most people can't really actually afford these things. They can't afford the liability behind it. Okay. So what ends up happening is, okay, you go out here with this 6,000-pound vehicle and you hit someone, you don't have the money to pay for the damage you caused. So you have to hire an insurance company to cover your risk, cover you as a risk on the road. And it's a shared risk. So it's a necessary, people think insurance is such a scam, but insurance pays out way more than the premiums they ever collect. Insurance companies actually, like he said, he was actually right in the video too about, insurance companies don't really use premium to pay for things. They use investments. Premium would never come. I mean, think about it. You're paying $1,200, maybe let's say $2,000 for a year's worth of homeowners insurance. You have a loss. Now I gotta pay, a tornado comes through. Now I'm paying you $20,000 for your roof, you and all your neighbors. But the insurance companies are the scammers, right? No. The whole system is a thing. But like I said, insurance companies are what dictate. I went today, I have I have my mobile office and I have ladders on top. I went today to the fire department to see if the fire department could cut the lock off my ladder rack. One guy comes and he's like, oh yeah, okay, I'll do it. Here comes the gatekeeper. No. We can't do that. We have to call the police. We have to do all these things. The fire department just couldn't help me, just straight up, because it's a liability. And if they do things that are against whatever it is laid out in their insurance policy. So this is what dictates everything that goes on in the matrix at this point, because the matrix has become so litigious and everybody wants their get back. This energy of get back, and I got to make you pay. I got to make you suffer. Well, Now we got to have insurance for everything. And you, as a recent acquirer of insurance in your own name as a grown man, what are your thoughts? You're muted. I can't. Oh, there you
Yeah,
go.
it's interesting because it's like it's this concept of paying for something that's in theory non-existent, and it's very interesting to look at the packages that you got to have coverage up to this amount and that amount. And you have all these different things. That you have your leases in which they tell you, what type of insurance you need to hold at all times. You can't have any lapses, um, and it's not real. It's an idea. Like you said. I mean, the concept of shared risk makes a lot more sense. But to be insured, to be sure of anything in a human existence is just not real. And I think that's the thing that we're kind of uncovering is that human existence is a liability.
Yeah.
Because they've made it so expensive because
Yeah.
of all the things that you need to have in order to be comfortable.
Yeah, and you're right about that. It's not a thing. They're not selling you a thing. It's an agreement.
Right.
You're paying for this agreement. You're agreeing. It's insurance is nothing but a contract. A policy is nothing but a contract. It's a contract that you don't get to make any changes to. You either accept it or you don't. But it's called a contract of adhesion. But it is a contract. It says that you're going to pay this premium, and if these things listed in the policy, I don't know, it's one thing people really don't ever do is read their policy. But it tells you what we're going to pay. It tells you what we're not going to pay. It tells you the additional coverages and a lot of the if-then situations. It breaks down everything, and people just, they don't like to read.
Well, most people can't read. So we can talk about that. The average literacy rate isn't high enough for an insurance policy. I mean, insurance policies are pretty straightforward, but to be able to read exhaustively multiple pages and actually understand what that means requires a different level of comprehension.
Yeah. Now, don't get me wrong. Not the average person can't read the entirety of an insurance policy, but you can read the part that says losses insured. We're going to cover wind, hail, lightning, this, and this.
If it's
right. Civil commotion.
If it's something that everybody has to do and has to have in some form, like as long as you're an independent adult, you're going to have either auto, home, renters, personal, some item that you may buy, some form of insurance. So why isn't there an insurance class? You know what I mean? A basic 101. Why isn't there a banking class? Even in college, like unless you're an accountant and that's your profession, there's still no just straight up, let me teach you how to be an adult. And so you may say, oh, that's for your parents, but where are your parents supposed to learn? Because most people haven't figured out.
But it also depends on, teach me how to be an adult is going to greatly differ depending on what type of adult you want to be.
That's very true. That's very true.
So I think from that angle, things are usually passed down generationally. I think you were saying the other day, what is that Progressive? Speaking of insurance, Progressive, that's their thing. We can't keep you from turning into your parents.
Yeah, but we can keep you from, having to pay for this big loss that you might have, I guess. And so, like you said, yeah, they're selling you a feeling, not a feeling in the same sense of like art and music, but a sense of security. The last question in that video, which was really funny, was, and so why would anybody do this shit? Oh, because you have to. It's legally required. You can't get a loan for a house without having.
And you just touched on something. No, go back to that, because what you're also buying is a sense of security that says, hey, I don't have to worry about this, and this, because if this happens, someone else is going to take care of it.
Allegedly.
So that's what you're actually buying is a sense
hashtag of allegedly.
Allegedly.
Oh yeah. So what's not alleged though? The redpillbook.com is where you can get the fraud department. This is where you can get the elephant in the room. And so you should definitely go check that out. Learn more about the book, learn more about some of the extra content we have around it. We have an audio book on the way, and we're going to have some more supplemental materials available as well. And so, it's really high quality book.
I've been waiting to do that.
But yeah.
Anyways, do we want to talk about anything else right now? I mean, there's so much. What's next? We're paying the cost to be the boss. What is the cost? Is it time? Is it money? Is it peace?
I think we should talk about your human value versus your matrix value. I think a lot of times when we hear these conversations about mental well-being and trying to prevent suicide, is that you have value and you have worth. But how does the matrix actually treat you? How does that worth actually get transferred? How is that energy shared with your employer, your boss, your partner, your friends, like
your matrix sponsor? Well, the thing is, in just about every employment situation, humans never really feel that they are getting the value of what they're actually worth. I mean, I self included. I mean, but there's a value from a business perspective. There's a max value that can be offered for your services based upon the business. You were saying something the other day, your actual human value is actually, there is no value. It's invaluable. But in the matrix, you had said something the other day about business, and you were reading something, how you cannot pay people more than.
Yeah, so if you're an employee, if you are someone that trades your labor for time, you are never going to get the maximum value possible from that exchange, because there has to be built-in profit in your wage. Like, a wage has a limit, and that limit is set by the company's ability to profit. And that's just, how it is. So when you talk about being at the hands of leadership or some type of institution, you're always going to be being taken advantage of to some extent. Now, someone like a CEO, for example, are kind of the oddball out. There's usually 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, big executive administrative roles where they're able to then decide what that number is for everyone else and take everything off the top. And so the larger these companies get, the more people that they're paying, the more taxes, the more profit. And so that's why most of these companies, their main focus is buying things up, consolidation, creating conglomerates that basically control a third to half of the market in some cases, and are borderline monopolies. So, especially if you work for a company or industry that is within that system or is basically within a monopoly, you already know what time it is. And so, for example, there's just certain companies in certain industries like energy, kind of legal monopolies, for example. And so with everything going on with like the data centers and conversations around, who owns energy and who has to pay the cost for, for all this type of infrastructure and development, it's you, the paying customer, because the company is always going to get a discount. The company is always going to get a kickback, is always going to get an incentive, because in theory, they're providing more economic development and growth. And any county, any state, city is always competing with the other to get something. They're not competing for the earth. They're not competing for human health and well-being. They want revenue and tax benefit. That's just straight up what it is. So
Yeah,
sure, you can't really get around that as long as they're able to provide those incentives and discounts.
and do you think that, like, even when you talk about things like that, do you think people are being exploited? You have a lot of people who are fighting for higher wages, but it's kind of like, okay, if you don't accept this wage, then is that too optimistic? Is that too
Well, I think, for
utopian?
example, the reason why this is a big conversation, because one of the big companies that lead
Why nobody wants to work?
one of the big companies that leads this conversation is Starbucks. Starbucks is a global corporation with stores, locations, franchises all throughout the United States, all throughout Europe, they're everywhere. So when you talk about how they pay people, when you see the difference in how employees are treated from one country to the next, one jurisdiction to the next, how even companies like Apple have to fit within certain laws and regulations and how that trickles in over here. This is kind of a side tangent, but even just this USB-C charger that you see right here is a product of the European Union. They basically forced Apple to say, hey, you can't keep selling these BS lightning cords that are only available for your phone. There's no reason that you should switch over to a USB-C on both ends when you have a USB-C on the other end. Like, it's like, hey, we recognize this technology is good, but we want to charge you out the ass for ours. So when it comes to wages, for example, you have something like Starbucks, which says a luxury product. Coffee is a luxury item. It's something that's not essential. And
artisan coffee anyway. You could probably get the
right. And when you talk about somebody like a barista and the barista rights and all
they make
that,
it so fancy.
right, exactly. And so, someone that may work at Dunkin' Donuts or McDonald's may not get the same level of respect in the community. So we talk about the Starbucks employees and they get more traction in the media. The whole
and they
idea,
get more tips.
And they get more tips because you already are working for a luxury brand. You're already paying too much for the coffee, but people are okay with that. One of the fun facts I thought was really interesting in Starbucks is that they hold billions of dollars on their apps just from cash, gift cards, and loaded cash money from people's credit cards and bank accounts. So they have access to, just as much capital as, any any other company because you gave it to them. If you think about it, all I have to do is give you coffee and I can now invest in, a rocket ship to Mars. Just think about what that means for what you're powering, what type of future that you're able to create.
Yeah. And, and that's a good point with, as far as, business models go. I mean, you see companies, I don't know what Pinky's business models was, but then you see other companies that have a business model.
Business model.
Huh?
Her business models go up higher, pay more, more and more stores.
Yeah, I mean, and it's irresponsible. Like I said, it's fine to, be what they call like a solo entrepreneur, and they make it so easy too. Like nowadays, anybody can go online. You can go online to the Secretary of State and get you an LLC. There's so many LLC that's to death. Okay. Everybody's got the LLC.
Well, so do you remember back in 2023, she gave a bunch of CAU graduates LLCs. Like that was her gift. So, yeah.
What you gonna do with an LLC if you don't know how to run a business? If you don't actually, and that's the thing, people are jumping into this business ownership, having taken no classes, having had no training. They just know they have a product that they want to sell or want to get out there, or they just are, just kind of hustle energy. This is how I can make money. You know what I mean? It used to be back in the day, the people who did things in a community were the people who were good at those things. You know what I mean? Like the clothing maker was the clothing maker. The blacksmith was the blacksmith. It wasn't just all these people just busting out LLCs trying to call themselves a boss. I got a LLC. I'm a boss.
And I think that is the biggest difference with
an annual renewal is what you got.
The biggest difference.
Subscription culture. Next. Go.
I said the biggest difference with I think those over time we have become less specialized because there's so much more information available. And so now people are just forced to become not just influencers or I guess talking heads, podcasters, but also just become middlemen, exchangers, just finding ways to hustle and just turn a dollar into 15 cents. Like there's it's not really about creativity and generating something that's innovative and new and that provides value. It's like, hey, how can you buy some chips on this side of town and sell them for a little bit more on this side of town? Like, and there's really no human and individual contribution that your personality and your humanness, whatever, like your individuality, it doesn't add anything to it. So,
Right.
one of the things I liked about Slutty Vegan, for example, was to create like just the buses. It was a food truck, and it started out, all the words on there, all the sayings, all the slogans. It was a representation of what vegan culture was going to become and what it was and what it could mean. It's like, hey, we can eat good too. We can do this too. So that's why it's stuck. Because it was a moment in time. And so you can see now, I mean, not that being plant-based is I'm not gonna say any less popular, but it's less it's less
It's
it's
less
commercial.
taboo. It used to be like if you were vegan or
Yeah,
whatever, then you had to be a full-blown tree hugger.
right.
Everybody,
You had to
everybody
be a
is none of
slut.
that.
You had to be a slut. That's the whole point. That's why it's like, hey, well, we're gonna be the most raunchy, annoying vegans that you ever heard of. We the slutty vegans, and so that's why it's loud when you go in. They making music, they beating on the thing. It's a vibe. So when that vibe wears off, it's like, what do you have? But I think that was a valuable thing that she provided, and that's why she was able to remix it and put it in a bunch of different of the same restaurants selling the same impossible meat in different forms and configurations. But it was good. It was the vibe, and you're gonna get some. I got better service, I feel, at Slutty Vegan than we did at Bar Vegan. But at the same time, it's like, yeah, I mean, it's like you almost gotta expect worse when you go sit down somewhere. And I think her restaurants were no different. At least
Yeah,
as
it's
far as
like that's part of this flipped bizarro culture. Like you tip in advance, and then you expect less.
right, right. And there's really no in between. Like it's like you said, if you don't like it, you can get out.
Right. If you don't like it, and that's part of my point when we complain about any of these things, every time we participate, we sign off on it. We people laugh and joke about, the whole, like Uber Eats, like ordering food and it's quadruple and it's this and that. But I ordered some, I was waiting on Uber Eats before we started this podcast. So what do we do? What do we do?
I got a quick video. I think that would be interesting here. I saw this the other day. Let me know what you think.
Imagine you call out of work and a smaller paycheck ain't a reason for stress. And then you out for a week, so you call up the doctor to go do some tests. He tells you it ain't nothing serious, hands you a bill and says pay at the desk. You open the envelope up and it's $82 of shit, maybe less. Head to the grocery store to pick up some shit that you like when you sick. Everything cheap as a bitch. Pay and walk back to the whip. Open your door and see paint from the car park next to you, click your shit. Hit up your Allstate man, says you in good hands and next day fixed. Your kids come home from the school that's close to your crib and clean and safe. They tell you how much they learned, light in their eyes, smile on their face. Then everybody eat at the table and talk and laugh and clean their plates. You take over dishes for wifey, your husband, partner, whatever the case. You hear a knock on the door, you open it, chill, no need for a scene. It's your neighbor, they brought you a snake plant to keep your air real clean. You thank them and close the door and think, damn good day, now I'm ending the scene. Then you wake up alone in your shitty apartment, you had the American dream.
Ooh!
That went hard. I felt that.
I ain't gonna lie. Like I said, I don't always watch these videos in full before, but I think that you wake up in your apartment, like, oh, the dog, I was like, ooh. So yeah, let's talk about that. Let's talk about how, when I think about the textbooks and stuff that I saw from post World War II and the baby boomer era and all these paper houses going up and these big roads being built, interstates, all these things. And now we're all packed into these cities, living in apartments by ourselves. We're not having kids. We're not reproducing. Everybody has a dog or a cat or some other exotic animal to keep them company. And, we all have our own share of addictions, whether it be food, drugs, Netflix, our Love Islands. And, I think a lot of us, especially those born after 9/11, just have no concept of this American dream we talk about. And that guy, he looks like he's my age. So he's able to make a song like this that sounds so fairy tale land. But it's like, we know no such thing. We know no such thing.
Like, what?
So,
and then you have things like this. Then you have things like, and this is why I wanted to earlier try to share the the
Yeah, me
Kiki
too.
Palmer article, because it's like in this particular article, Dr. Farah Gray shares that Kiki Palmer, her home is set up, is currently getting widespread public discussion after she revealed that I reside together with my 2 siblings and all of their young kids. Okay, so they have a multi-family household. Like, why is this news? Why aren't more people doing this? Why is it like this is like this is
People
so
are doing it.
shocking for the culture, right? Like, what? Why is this so shocking?
It's surprising because she's Black. It's surprising because she's American born. It's surprising because she's not an immigrant or some other group or class that we deem this is normal. That's the reason. We think that she should be 100% bought into this matrix system where she needs to have a mansion and live alone with her partner and maybe the one kid that she may have.
Like, in my eyes, she's choosing, and again, like what I tell you all the time, everything is a choice. She's choosing to be a boss and not pay the cost. You know what I mean? I mean, if all of those,
She's sharing the cost with the homie.
share the cost. Share the cost to be the boss.
Right.
That should have been our title. Let's get back to sharing the cost of being the boss.
And we don't have time for this today, but when we get on this new earth thing, it's like this is part of it. There are no bosses. We have leaders, we have people that direct, we have people that are better at certain things than others, but this concept of ownership in and of itself is a big problem and kind of why we have gotten so lost in society. I think that's kind of one of the big things too that got the indigenous people of America so out of whack, because they don't have a concept of ownership. It's just the land that we exist on. It's the land that we're traveling to, or we live on today, or we're living on tomorrow. It's not like this is this people's land, and it may mean something to you, may have a connection to it, but it doesn't mean you own it. The concept of owning anything, other humans, land, animals, is strictly based on exchange of capital and resources. If you what's the point of owning something if you can't exchange it? If you can't exert that ownership on someone else and let them know, hey, you don't have access.
Right.
I will shoot you.
And like you said, you can't. Like I said earlier, you can't spell matrix without TAX. And it's like, even when you think about something. So let's say I'm working a job. Okay. I'm working a job selling a product. When I sell the product is taxed. Okay. Someone has to pay tax on me selling the product. We had to pay tax on all the things we needed to create the product. When it's time for me to get paid at the end of the week, not only does my boss have to pay tax on me as an employee, the employee then has to pay tax on the income. Okay. And then you see, like, this one thing, whatever.
It's an exchange. It's one exchange.
It's like insane. The taxation is just coming from
all
every direction.
Right. And let's talk about, I think we don't really have to get into taxation 101, American government. I think, we all know, but one of the things, the hidden costs of being the boss, let's talk about land ownership. Let's talk about having to protect your property. Let's talk about not the First Amendment. Let's talk about that second. Let's talk about the right to bear arms and how that has become such a cultural phenomenon that makes America what it is, and has become probably one of the most popular hobbies for any men and women in America, and for reasons not strictly for sport, not strictly for hunting or for any utilitarian approach, other than protection, other than I wish a nigga would, you know what I mean? Other than I can't wait to see the day.
That boss energy. It's that boss vibe. It's that feeling of being power. It's that feeling of power.
Right. And I think one of the things too that's made me realize that as I come to age is it's never really a big deal. I never grew up in a dangerous area where I feel like I had to protect myself from other people. But once you start to acquire things, once I got my first city apartment, once it's okay, now you got a car, now you got things that people might want to break in. Now you have really no way to deter anybody from doing whatever they want to do to you. when they don't subscribe to the same rules that you subscribe to.
Mhm.
You know, I think that is why guns are so popular. Is because it's kind of the great equalizer. You know, you
But
can buy the
that's why Diddy said more money, more problems. That's exactly what that means.
but instead of
More
more
money you
money,
have, the
more
more
freedom, more
the
freedom,
more you
more
have to protect that. Yeah.
right. And so the conundrum that we're in, and what I'm trying to get at, is that even though I don't feel like I'm threatened, the fact that there are threats and the fact that other people feel threatened means that we're in a state of fear. You know,
It
and
means the
everybody,
threat is out there. There is
right,
a threat energy that moves around through the matrix,
exactly, right. And so for people to have
just like a
to
video game.
make a decision whether what loadout do you want to carry, what type of individual, what type of participant do you want to be? You want to be a duck or you want to be a goose?
A sitting duck. Right.
So I just think about that game. Think about the game of duck duck goose. You sit down and you just wait for it to happen. You know what's gonna happen. You know they're gonna come and get you. So it's like you sit
Now
around
you
your
didn't take it all the way back to the duck duck goose.
house. We gotta get down to the fact. This is how they raised us. This is how they raised us mentally. Duck, duck, goose. And you know it's over. You better get up and run because they on your ass.
All right, that was an unexpected analogy with the duck duck goose, but you're not wrong.
What do you want to be, a duck or a fucking goose? The goose is on the move. The
Right.
goose is on the move. It's a wild goose chase because the goose is not under control anymore. That's the whole thing. So if everybody
And that just speaks to part of the cost, of even just living the matrix is your own peace. There's no peace when you're constantly on the run, constantly on the hustle, constantly got to get a check, constantly got to pay the rent, you know what I'm saying? Like there's no peace. When do you have peace, really? Even if you say, hey, I take a day for myself, I take a few hours for myself, some self-care, whatever, your mind is still
right.
on
And
your
think
day
about it.
off, your mind, depending on the type of job you have, on your day off, your mind is still thinking about all the things you're going to have to do when it's time to go back to work.
Right. And think about the justification that we make for when we take time off. We always say it's to come back and be better workers. It's to come back and be more efficient, more productive, to work harder and faster and smarter.
Mm-hmm.
It's never just to be better humans, never to be more healthy, never to lower your blood pressure, never to get rid of that crook in your neck from all that tension you're holding, sitting in that office chair all day.
Mm-hmm.
It's never.
And there's another one of the costs of being the boss. Not necessarily, if you are an entrepreneur, a lot of times the work, the hustle, the stress, your health will suffer. Your health will definitely suffer from, I think in a lot of ways people think that burnout is some sort of badge of honor, and it's not.
Yes.
It's not. If your body's not getting rest, the proper nutrition, a lot of times entrepreneurs, and boss types, they're constantly on the go. So in many cases, they're eating garbage. If you're not a true boss that actually has true coin and is you know what I'm saying? Getting that.
Okay, so let's talk about that. Let's talk about that. What is a true boss? What is a true boss? What is that?
Well,
what does that mean?
I think that a true boss, just high level, just talking about a true boss, is somebody that has financial freedom, is
so someone that
you talk about CEOs, they're technically the boss of someone else, but
right.
to me they're not really a boss. I'm saying they're still working. They're still
right.
part of the workforce. They're still employed by somebody. They still answer to somebody. To me, a true boss only answers to themselves and can make decisions outside of the matrix, and can make decisions outside of what culture and community think, make decisions that are best for themselves. And it's like you went back to duck duck goose. I'm going back to, you're not the boss of me. If I can sit up and say to somebody's face, you're not the boss of me, you don't tell me what to do, I do what I want to do, that's a boss. But you have to really be about that. You have to really be able to say that. Like, you can't say that and then be worried because you're about to get fired from your job. Okay, that's not boss. And you can't just say that. You have to say that. You know what I'm saying? And be true to that. So, you know, a person who maybe is, you know, an artisan or a creative type person that can get out there. And then even when you are, let's say, self-employed, let's say you can get out there and sell things, make things, you're still subject to your customers.
Right.
Your
You're always
customers,
answering to somebody.
you
And
know.
so I
So to me, it's an independence. Being a boss means independence.
I think that's why I asked you the question, because I think when you focus on people like CEOs, entrepreneurs, executives, investors, I think investors are probably the only people that can kind of be put into a separate category because they make you do the work. They have acquired so much capital, and that's kind of how capitalism works. I have the capital, you do the work. And so while I sit here and reap the benefits, reap the rewards, recover the dividends, accumulate interest, you are going to always suffer, and you'll be stuck in this wheel of a time warp. You'll be stuck in this wheel of having to exchange the little bit of extra free time you have, the little bit of extra capital that you have to keep paying for this overhead. And we've sold
Right.
you a lifestyle that is unsustainable based on these companies that you idolize. And so, what I wanted to bring up was about a real boss is that you kind of have to detach from the idea of accumulating capital is the way to become a boss. It is a mental thing first that you have to detach from that form of success, that form of acquiring what they have to offer before you can truly say that you're a boss. Because once that stuff doesn't affect you, you're not worried, like you said, you're not worried about being fired, being removed, being excommunicated, because it has no effect on your wellness and your being as a person. But we know everybody has something that will make them tick, something that will, that one thing that you just can't go without. And so, they'll always find that and they will get rid of that, whether it's relationship, whether it's, that one thing that's keeping you holding on. And so Starbucks is a good example when we were talking about the baristas and wage, because that's just everybody's favorite addiction. That's keeping, this company alive. So,
Yeah.
I feel like being a
Well,
boss
this
is
is a good time. I think, and in answering that question, it came to me like the elephant in the room. Why won't it show the thing? Oh, anyway, elephant in the room. Chapter 7 discusses free will. Are you a sovereign? Are you able to? I think that being a true boss is someone who can exert free will. And so the chapter opens up. It says, what are your thoughts on free will? Is it something that can be granted to us? Can it be taken away? Is there a physical element? What is free will? Free will really? Is it shopping at Kroger versus Publix? Is it going to a bar versus a church? Or are those some of the very limited choices that we have to make in moments we call our lives? What would you really prefer to be doing? So free will is an operation of the soul or a higher self, part of the perfected state of being. However, at the moment of incarnation, it is exchanged willingly for DNA and other forms of program. From there, life becomes a series of experiences, options, and choices shaped by our programming and environmental factors. Free will is most like to imagine it doesn't exist. Well, I'm not going to go into that. But basically, you were talking about you get stuck on this wheel, and I think let me find where I talk about that towards the end. It's basically like in the Bible, they talk about Ezekiel's wheel, and it's basically just being on, literally being on a hamster wheel. Okay. Oh yeah, here we go. Free will operates only when you possess all the information. When you make uninformed choices, such as under manipulation, you feel robbed of the chance to exercise free will. Regret is the opposite of free will. Choices made with incomplete information fuel the illusion of free will. And that's what the Matrix constantly does, is it gives us incomplete information, making it just a memory of our higher self. So free will gets exchanged for a free wheel, WHEEL, or a free ride through space and time. And egos can send you on that ride stuck on a hamster wheel or on Ezekiel's wheel, which allows you to move and travel in all. Ezekiel's wheel was a thing in the Bible. It just was this thing that lets you move and travel, in all directions. But But yeah, I mean, free will to me, being able to exercise your free will, being able to really assert your value and say no, in many cases, self included, I'm not exempt from many of the things that I speak about, but in many cases, just, in dealing with my matrix sponsor, there are places that things and places I have to go, and not so much things I don't want to do, but let's just say places I have to go, places they send me to that I don't get to say, I don't want to go there. I don't think that's the best place for me, or I'm not having a good time here. I have to go. And there's no real option. I have to decide. I mean, I can decide. Okay, now a boss would be able to just say, you know what, I actually don't want to go, and I'm not going to go, and it's not going to impact my life, whether I'm here or not. You know what I mean? It's not going to. I can freely make that decision without the stress and concern of the matrix consequences, i.e., not being able to pay bills, not being able to pay rent, things like that. So once you've mastered, once you've gotten to a certain level of self mastery, you'll be able to and here's the thing too, and it's not that you just won't have to do anything you don't want to do, but you can also you also know that you're making this decision. See, a lot of people don't realize that these are the decisions that they're making. So like for me, if I don't really want to go somewhere, my job, like, okay, I really could say no, and I really could pull something, or I really could, but I also know what those consequences are, or what they could be. Not even what they necessarily are. It's just what they could be.
Right. Because that's the thing that
It always keeps whether things get enforced in the matrix or not, they always keep the consequences looming over you, so that they can activate them at will whenever it's time, check up on you when they need to. So yeah.
And I think that's kind of the big thing that we're seeing right now as the universe and the matrix expands, and the fact that we have to have all these extra laws, extra rules, technology, surveillance. We have to have all these conversations about what we're going to give up. What rights do we think that we should automatically yield to these companies and corporations that we know are focused on making money? It's not like we're just giving the government, even though we know that they're not the best. At least you could, blindly say that, their interest is not necessarily to harm anybody or to do anything that would impede on, our well-being, our freedoms and whatnot. But we know that that's not the case. And we know that these people that are here to make money can only do so with the investment and support of said government. And so at this point, we're at a crossroads where it's, how much power do we give them by continuing to participate? Like you said, they don't really control nothing. They control as long as we control ourselves. So as long as you have the self-control to not go murder somebody in the street, to not run that red light, to not pay your taxes, and to not take your kids out of school, that is the only thing keeping everything up. If everyone decides to do it at the same time in coherence, there's nothing that they can do, because there's the resources are stretched too thin. They try to act like they have all these police that can do all these different things. They act like they have all these systems, all this military, the National Guard, and they could do a lot of damage. They could definitely hurt a lot of people. But when you think about how many millions of Americans there really are, and if they were actually able to get even just a third of us on the same page in some way, in some form or fashion, one thing at a time. If we start with, like, let's say the education system, it won't have any money if you don't give it to them. And so that starts with what? Property taxes. That starts with, you know what I mean? Like, what is the whole county going to do when everybody decides, I'm not paying this? I don't like what you're doing to my schools. I don't like that you shut down this elementary school and you made that.
It just goes back to, it's their strength in numbers. Like, right. it's all we do is end up, it's not enough to go protest, to go march, if there's only a teeny tiny fraction of the population that's actually participating. With the school, if you want to walk out to be successful, everyone needs to walk out. Not just not just 100, maybe 100 or a couple hundred kids that they can't, they can suspend.
Well, actually, how I think it doesn't need to be everyone. It needs to be everyone in one industry. It needs to be everyone in one, group of, one workforce. So if everyone that makes the trains move says, hey, we're not making no trains move today. If everybody that's unloading these ships coming from China, if they say, hey, we're not unloading those ships today, things are going to change very quickly. So I think that's the thing that they don't tell you about, and that doesn't make it to the how they teach us about movements and strikes and things like that, because it is a very rewarding thing if you do it right. But we know that there's so much investment in making sure that that's not possible, and so that's why every state has their own laws and legislation regarding unions and all those type of things, and so those are always going to be what's the word? Destabilized. And we're going to try to, there's a word I'm missing. Start with a C. Corrupt. We're going to try to corrupt those things as much as possible.
Yeah. Yeah.
I remember when I got my first job.
Yeah, I mean, humans are capable of corrupting.
Company, and they came out with that union paper. They said, hey, we have to tell you about this. And I was just like, okay, like, what is this? And, you see that, oh, this actually, has some, real world impact, but they're going to take some of that money. They're going to take some of your check. So, you don't get anything for free in this world. You know what I mean? So if you want somebody to fight for you, if you want a good lawyer, you're going to have to pay for it. And that's kind of one of the things that is kind of the great equalizer on that upper level is, being able to coerce a judge, being able to sway the jury, being able to have someone on your side with a good name, someone that's trustworthy. It's kind of funny how when you have a legal system where they always say what can and will be used against you will, when you actually get into the courtroom, you don't say jack diddly squat. Like that's why all those shows when it's about criminals and law, whenever you get up and say something in front of the stand, it's such a big deal because you're basically throwing your innocence away. You're throwing it in the trash.
Yeah.
Oh man, it's so funny, but you can't really be human to human honest and really express who you are when it comes to your freedom being on the table, because they will always.
And the thing people don't realize, freedom isn't expensive. Dependence is. It's our dependence on things that's so expensive. If we all decided to get free, if we all decided to take it back, freedom is not expensive.
But I mean, I'm looking at even from some of the plans that we have and looking at what the things that we want to do. You're really just shifting the dependence. You know what I mean? You're really shifting, and that's a good thing. I mean, being dependent on yourself and your family, your unit, whatever situation that you have at home.
We got to go back to the village concept.
Exactly. And so you're shifting that dependence to a smaller group that can be more tailored and fit to whatever your values and interests are, whatever you want to do. I look at it as kind of similar to like how streaming has kind of how cable fell off and streaming took over, where cable sold you all these packages. If you want this channel, you got to have this channel too, and that channel and that channel. If you want to be in America, you got to pay taxes. But we're going to go fund this war over here. We're also going to fund your school. So which one do you want? Like, it's like,
I think I was watching something a long while ago, and I don't know if they still do this, but I was watching something on Netflix, and it was like it had all the seasons. Whatever this show was, maybe it was Suits. I don't know what it was. I'm trying to binge watch this show when I used to watch TV, and they gave us every single season on Netflix except the last one. Except the finale, the final season. I had to go somewhere else, pay somebody else. And by that time I'm hooked. What else am I going to do but go pay it? I can't hear you.
Yeah, I was going to say exactly. That's how they get you every single time.
That's how they get you. It's insane. It's insane how, and it's like the Matrix has now turned into like this subscription-based culture. Like, what was that saying you told me earlier? You don't own anything if you don't own, or we were talking about piracy.
If purchasing isn't ownership, then piracy is not stealing.
Yeah, because even when you purchase a home, when you purchase a car, even when I paid cash for a car, I still had to subscribe to the tax I had to pay every year, the registration I had to pay every year. It's not just subscription based from Netflix and from Uber Eats and all these other apps. It's subscription based from the government. Your existence as a citizen, your rights, your abilities, all the things that you're granted are dependent upon a subscription, an annual renewal.
I thought it was really funny that you brought up the Tesla. So let's talk about this real quick. You also mentioned taxes and registration, all that stuff that applies to every car. But now we have car-based subscriptions. We have self-driving. We have premium connectivity. We have the Sirius XM. We have all these different things that they're able to sell you now. So we can just run through a few of them. We have the Porsche Drive, which is $1,700 a month.
It's like you
available.
can't even turn on a television anymore and just watch TV. The
Right.
television, you buy a television, but now you have to buy something else to go with it. So you have to pay. I can't buy a computer and just start typing or whatever. I have to buy a subscription to Microsoft to keep
Right.
me able. So I don't really,
You
the
don't own
things
it.
the things that we quote unquote own aren't worth anything without the subscriptions that go along with it.
And think about something like a car, which is so dependent on how well it's made, the maintenance, the rock being on the road. And so we talk about insurance being so expensive. Most people can't afford the cars that they have. So you get a loan, you pay, a couple $100 a month for car insurance, registration. And now you have, you remember how when insurance used to be able to give you the roadside? Remember you used to have those warranty advertisements on TV that, hey, you have this $20 a month, and we'll cover your whole car. Well, now you can buy the car from them. You can then go to the dealership and get Care by Volvo, which includes maintenance, insurance, roadside tire, and wheel protection for 1,250 miles per month. You don't even get to drive like as much as you want. There's a limit. And so these are the kind of conversations you got to start having when it comes to what is it that we own. And so, some of these numbers are ridiculous when you see how much your people are paying. At least $1,000 a month for some of these when you talk about out the door prices.
Right.
And
Like
so,
even when I had my Chevy, it's like it offers all this stuff and built-in Wi-Fi and
mhm,
all these things, but those things don't work unless you pay OnStar for a subscription.
right, exactly. And so, we know Tesla was being sued for their self-driving advertisements being basically just lies, saying that we'll be able to let you drive your
Oh,
car.
and don't forget our favorite. You pay $1,000, $1,200 for an iPhone or Android, and you got to pay the phone company a subscription every month to be able to use it.
Right,
It's
right.
insane.
Right. So, what I was kind of trying to get into is how, like, for example, BMW has a drive recorder, which is basically $150 or $40 a year. And so you see how this can easily be like, oh, why wouldn't I just pay the 150 lifetime? Because your BMW is not going to make it more than
It's not
3
gonna
years.
last a lifetime. That's why your BMW is not even gonna last as long as it takes for you to pay it off
So
because you've
Ford,
gone into debt for it.
right. So Ford has this highway hands-free driving system that you can pay $50 a month for. GM has the Super Cruise. Mercedes has the Me Connect with their terrible. Mercedes has some of the most terrible infotainment and sound out of all the major brands. We know Tesla has the $10,000 self-driving that is apparently now $12,000.
Yeah.
Now,
Now,
and so yeah,
and before you came around, or before
remote
you really
start. You have
started,
to pay for remote start.
bruh, and before you came around, I'll use a company like, let's say, TurboTax as an example. When TurboTax first came on the scene, you went to the store and you purchased the software in a package, and then you opened it up and you put it into your computer, either by floppy disk or CD-ROM, something of that nature. So now you can't really go and just buy, and you would load it onto your desktop and you would use it, and it was yours as many times as you needed to use it. But now, in order to use TurboTax, you have to subscribe. You have to pay that annual. I mean, your whole life is a subscription. Your entire life is a subscription. Your ability to have power, to have food, to have, to use your phone, every single thing comes with some sort of subscription behind its usage. And that's the new fraud model. We're going to advertise all these things, but then once you get it, we're going to make a few things available, maybe for free, maybe allegedly.
Allegedly.
And then all the good stuff, the stuff that you really actually want to use, you have to purchase the next tier, the next level. You have to go up to the next level. So it's like,
So speaking of
and it
OnStar,
never, and let me just say this before you move on, and it never ends. So like, just for example, Delta Airlines, love Delta. That's my, I'm a Delta snob. When it first started out, they had silver, gold, and platinum medallion. Okay, that wasn't enough. Now we got to create the diamonds. Now we got to do the this elite. Now we got to do this. Now we got to do the this and this and this. We got they got to keep those levels. It's like the pyramid. The Matrix is just one big pyramid scheme where you keep purchasing the same things that you've already purchased over and over. But go ahead. What were you gonna say?
yeah, no, I was just gonna say, since you brought up OnStar and GM, they said that they plan to make $20 to $25 billion by 2030. Ford CEO said, gross margins over 50%. They expect to 10x their money just on subscription-based services. And so, it's never going to end. You're going to keep buying these products. The price is going to go up. You're going to, always have to pay more. I thought it was funny when we talked about those floppy disk and all those different ancient technologies. The reason why you're not going to do a floppy disk or a USB type software anymore is because you can't update it. We can't take off the ability that you have the service. They can't turn off your floppy disk. They can turn off your download. They can turn off your account, your IP address. You can get banned from these platforms. You know what I'm saying? Even the ability to monetize. This video itself can get demonetized if we say the wrong thing about the wrong people at the wrong time. So, the subscription is also your actions, being a good citizen, being someone that follows the rules.
You gotta be a good subscriber.
Yeah, exactly. So be a good subscriber and like this video.
Right, like, share, subscribe to this video. While we're on subscription culture. Yeah. Thank you.
Yes.
And it's like, and that's another good point. Even people who, and we don't monetize, we're just here for the love of the truth. But even people on, that get monetized on these social media platforms is based on subscribers, how many subscribers they can get. And
well, it's really now, because subscribers are becoming such a kind of a iffy metric. They're mainly focused on engagement. So how many interactions, how many likes, comments, how many reposts, how many any of those engagement metrics where someone had to click a button multiple times throughout the course of that video, that tells people how much we should give you for these ads. And so with all these corporations like Spotify being outed for having AI bots and AI music and being able to manipulate the streaming numbers, people don't trust anything. And so Spotify wasn't even a company that was focused on music. They were just an internet advertisement company. They didn't care if it was going to be music, gaming, porn. They were just trying to find a way to, make money. And so music ended up being that, because they saw opening, Pandora, Apple. There really weren't that many big players at the time, and so they built their ish up. Now they're one of the main reasons that the music industry is kind of becoming.
Yeah, I keep wondering, how do artists even make money nowadays? Like, it just doesn't seem. When I was young, we had to go to Tower Records and purchase. I went from albums to tapes to CDs. Now you just stream, and you can't be making that money, because I'm only paying I'm paying Apple $9.99 or $12.99 subscription for you and I to be able to stream any song we want, we can download anything we want. How is that being broken up among, like, how, you know what I mean? Like, it just seems like another level of exploitation where the matrix is getting artists have always been exploited in the past by, let's say, record labels, record companies. Now they're being exploited by the streaming and subscription situation, because these companies are making money hand over fist.
And the thing is, too, that people don't really talk about when it comes to Spotify, even how they announce how much money that they're paying artists, they're paying money to the same record companies and the same big three, Sony, Universal, and Warner, I believe, are the big three right now. And, that money never ends up in the artist's hands. So it's really, how do these record labels still get paid? And the thing is that Spotify, when they came to negotiate their terms and agreements with these big three, obviously, if they didn't have any money or any music on their platform, they weren't going to be able to go public. And so right before they went public, they had a renegotiation, and they were basically able to set their terms just as they saw fit. And they basically, what they did was they said, hey, we're going to take 15%, right? Whatever that number is. And you're not allowed to negotiate anything higher. So independent artists, people that aren't represented by the big three, can't make any more money than the big three from their artists and the music that they have. So Spotify is basically in this situation that they're perfectly fine with, where they basically cap out how much they pay artists, and the artists are really just the artist representatives, which end up, screwing them over hand over fist every time.
Right. Unless you're like our buddy Nate Free, he's got his AI artist, Miss Vega. Let's talk about that for a minute. AI artist.
I really don't. I don't think I don't know if this is the show for that, but I will say I'm not
because AI is also a part of the subscription. AI is also a subscription.
Well, Suno is the big AI company that is, doing a lot of the brunt work to get this allowed and get the foothold in the industry. There's a song that I've actually been listening to. It's called "Rubbers" by Phoenix Flexin, and he's a LA rapper who doesn't really have a lot of range vocally, but he was able to drop this mysterious song that has this British upbeat tempo, and it doesn't sound anything like him, and everyone is kind of like going at him like, hey, there's this AI, like, this doesn't sound like you, bro, like, this sounds like a white man. So it's like, how did you you could tell when it comes to some of these videos where he's like trying to perform he doesn't seem comfortable with the material, but this is something
I don't necessarily like it when people are making up using AI to create their music. In the example of Nate Free, he is a musician. He has created the music. He's just using an AI likeness to put it forward. You know what I mean? To put it forward instead of himself. Kind of like a person who uses a pseudonym to write a book. Writes a book under a different name. Hey, now I'm just gonna go ahead and put this music out under. They used to do it back in the day when they wouldn't let Black artists be on the cover of the album. They would put somebody else on the cover, or they would put someone else's avatar forward.
The difference with that, what you're saying is with Nate Free, he's using AI to make a generative character that represents the music. But what other people are doing are using AI to either manipulate their voice, make a beat, make the actual track, the lyrics, you know what I'm saying? So when people say AI, a lot of times they don't actually know what they're referring to, because AI is entrenched in every aspect, from Instagram, YouTube. A lot of these music platforms and softwares that make auto-tune have certain types of automated.
We're talking about, in this instance, we're talking about direct usage.
Yeah, we're talking about generative AI that created the raw product for the music, instead of you putting in some type of starting point. So if you didn't make a track and you took a sentence, if you went from a sentence to a song, that is generative AI. That means you did not have any creative, like, you know what I mean? You're a query bot. Like, you are someone that will put in.
Like, I believe our theme song was created with some sort of generative AI. Love our theme song.
Right. But we're not parading ourselves as artists trying to also make money off of this song. This is just to represent our ideas.
Right. Support me as an artist. I've created this thing. Yeah, no.
Right. So for us to go out there with any type of integrity and ask someone to pay us to perform something that we have no connection to, it's kind of crazy. And to ask for that respect as an artist as well. And so, I think that to argue whether we should have, got a real artist to do it, that's a whole nother conversation. But I think at this point, to be able to say that you are now able to basically tarnish your own credibility as an artist, not because you're plagiarizing, not because you have a ghostwriter like Drake, it's because
like Milli Vanilli. It's like when the whole Milli, it's like how history always repeats itself. I'm feeling like this is Milli Vanilli. Like okay, back when they came out, they were singing or whatever. When they found out that they were lip syncing, I mean, when I tell you that was the first, and when I was a child, that was the first instance I really ever saw of cancel culture. When I tell you they got cast down with the sodomites for for basically scamming the people. And so, but now, fast forward a little bit, it's now become a very acceptable thing for an artist to get up on stage and either lip sync. And I think they were lip syncing. I don't think you know, it's like, okay, it's one thing for an artist to get up and lip sync their own music. They had not created their own music. If I'm not mistaken, I have to go back and double check. I don't want to put any fraud out there, but it was somebody else singing for them.
Allegedly.
There were other people actually recording. There were real people recording the music, and then they would get up on stage and go lip sync with their braids flying around everywhere.
Yeah. And that's basically what the situation we're in now is. And so, you know, I agree. It's pretty bad. But I will say,
and let me finish. I'm sorry, I didn't complete my thought. And so what irritates me about AI, like, I think that all these things are great tools. Use AI as a tool, use studio things as tools, but just like with Milli Vanilli, when someone else completely has created something and you get up there and pretend like it's your own, I have a problem with that. Just like I have a problem with people who are creating all of these ultra wise and want to give advice social media posts. You know, they gave Chat GPT a couple of words, and it spit out this post, and now you're posting it like you have all this wisdom, and posting it in the first person as if it wasn't created by something else. And I have a big pride. I just think that's fraud. I just think that's fraud. I mean, we used AI to create the description for this video. We'll use AI maybe to create a social media post for an event, a product, allow it to be like your assistant to help you run things, but don't use it in place of your own self. And we can't allow AI to take our identity, because that's what's happening. People are giving up their identity. You don't know who's who and who's what and who's saying this. I think there's a friend of mine said that there's a girl on his timeline. She got she's been posting for about a year now with this whole AI boyfriend, and they be going places, and I guess they come up with pictures. I don't know. I don't know how it all works, because I'm not. That is insane. But yeah. She pretends that she's in this relationship, but it's actually an AI. And people be on there commenting like, "Oh, girl, y'all cute. Look at y'all." And it's like, and another problem I have with a lot of this AI generated stuff is that humans, and this is why AI has taken all our jobs, because we lack discernment. We look at these posts, and people will get all carried away and all going all in or all hyped up about something that was AI generated. It's not even true. It's not even really happening.
Right. And that's the thing. That's not the first question that people ask when you show them something or they say something. Is that AI? And so now the new calling your bluff is that's AI. Or like, hey, you ain't see me out. That was AI. You ain't see me at the club. That was AI.
Right. That's gonna be the excuse where, used to be you could catch people in the act doing things. Oh no, I didn't really do that, and they might not be wrong. That's the thing. In a lot of cases, some of this AI is really.
Imagine having the benefit of the doubt just because that there's a technology that can manipulate someone so well that they can't see what's happening right in front of them or not happening right in front of them. So I think it's one thing for a person, an average person, the average Joe, to say that, but it's another thing for someone like the president, someone like an elected official, someone that's been put in a power of leadership that can just say, "Oh, that was AI. Don't worry about it, guys. That wasn't me." And it's real because someone probably would make an AI video of Trump. They would make an AI video of Obama. They have made AI videos of Will Smith eating spaghetti. The Will Smith spaghetti video has kind of been the benchmark for AI quality over the course of the years. And so there was one that came out, I think, in the 2010s, early 2020s, and they've kind of recreated this video with the different the different softwares. And it's kind of become a meme in and of itself. So now the Will Smith eating spaghetti videos are so damn good, you can't tell the difference. So I'm just going to show you a quick example real quick so you can see. I think it's also pretty fucking racist as well, because if you just look at the type of, ignorance that they're displaying, but it is kind of funny at the same time. So I'll share that with y'all.
Oh, that's hot.
That's hot. Uncle Phil, come try this. Fresh pasta of Bel Air.
So that's like an example of the early videos. And this is like, one from 2026.
Ah,
Wow, no, seriously.
that's hot. That's hot.
Yep. I'm still eating the spaghetti in 2025.
So have you heard of Kling 3.0?
I heard it can create multiple scene cuts like this with a single prompt. And it knows
Now that really looks like Will Smith.
whoever is talking.
But did you know that all this audio was also generated with the same prompt?
I guess I didn't, sir.
So, this just goes to show you that it's going to get really bad. It's going to get really hard to be able to tell what's real, what's not, what to believe.
People are going to have to tap in. Apparently.
Yeah, you got to really tap in. Use your intuition. Use your common sense. That's what R. Kelly said when he was talking about believing whether or not he was a serial rapist or not.
And get the red pill book. That'll help out. That'll help you decode some of this stuff, help you tap in. And really what it is just you need to check out of all this social media, all this bombardment of information, all this stuff they put forward. It's overload. And that's when you know you're being defrauded, because there's a bombardment of information. So you don't even have time to really figure out or discern.
Does this sound familiar to anybody?
How stupid would I be to do that?
I didn't say you
That's
were holding.
stupid, guys.
I didn't.
Is this camera on me?
Yes.
That's stupid. Use your common sense. Don't forget the blogs. Forget how you feel about me. Hate me if you want to, love me if you want, but just use your common sense. How stupid would it be for me to, with my crazy past and what I've been through? Oh, right now I just think I need to be a monster and hold girls against their will.
It's the with your history, your past, we believe that you would do it again. It's not that about
right, because people don't make mistakes. People have patterns of behavior.
People don't make mistakes. That needs to be another ticket. But
people have patterns of behavior, yeah, and people are on certain energetic frequencies that make them do certain things. So yes, people can raise their frequencies and maybe not do certain things anymore. But if you keep your frequency, here you're going to keep doing the same things. You keep bumping up against the same wall. But yeah, people don't make mistakes. People have patterns of behavior. So when people do all this apologizing and all this, oh, I'm so sorry. I want to know, you're really not. You're just sorry that it didn't work out for you. That it, what I'm saying, that it caused an issue. You're sorry that you got caught. You're so, what I'm saying? But that pattern of behavior, that's why they say, a cheater's going to cheat. A person who does that, and it doesn't have to be any particular reason why. You could be the best, you could be the worst, whatever. If that's their pattern of behavior, that's going to be their pattern of behavior. Now they're going to be remorseful, probably if they hurt you or, but it's not going to stop that pattern of behavior until they raise because they're on a certain vibrational frequency. Once you raise your frequency, then maybe you might not, like I said, do those things anymore. But until you raise your frequency, you're going to keep doing the same things over and over and having the same experiences over and over.
Well, let's get out of that pattern. Let's go get the redpillbook.com. Let's meditate, do some yoga, go drink some water.
Some healing, get you some healing, drink you some water, take a nap.
Go touch some grass. All these things.
Yeah, like I, and me, I always encourage at least one day a week. Like, some people like to go to church, whatever. I encourage, a communication fast once a week. Disconnect, detach, just sit with yourself. People are so uncomfortable with just being with themselves. They have to be connected. They have to, be getting attention from somewhere else, and that just goes.
No, I think it's more so about giving attention. It's that you won't give attention back to yourself. I would disagree with that statement. I think most people aren't getting attention on social media. Most people are ghost followers. Most people are observing. They're not participating. They're not contributing to the algorithm. you know? And so I think the addiction
But
now
they're
is
still receiving because they're in observing, they're still taking that in. Whether
yeah,
they're commenting or liking or anything like that, they're still taking that in. That it, you know, I mean, I know sometimes when I'm feeling whatever way, I'll scroll and look for some funny stuff, or I'll go to a comedian's website. So I'm looking for, and it may not be direct attention, but all this content is being put out for me to come and watch it, for me to come and look at. Nobody would be putting out content if it weren't people like you, and you that go and watch it. So.
Right. So thank y'all for watching. You know,
thank y'all for watching. We've been on for long enough. Feel free, if you joined us last minute, feel free to follow us on YouTube, like, share, subscribe, roll back and catch the rest of the video. We'll get some clips here in the next few minutes. And shout out to, speaking of final thing on this subscription matrix, I do want to shout out to StreamYard for providing the subscription for us to have this platform. I really like our new look for the fraud department. It has all the things and all the bells and whistles. So yeah, shout out. And also, let's see, what else? What's the last thing? Oh, we forgot to put up the app. You can get the SoulSync Subliminals app for self-mastery. You can download that. The QR is in there. It's available on the Apple and the Google Play Store. SoulSync Subliminal Affirmations. And then let's see. Okay, what I wanted to try, Bubba, I want to play the theme song on the way out. Yeah, I wish I should have set that up to play the theme song on the way out, but that's what I want to play. Any last words? Any last thoughts? I think we got a comment. Is that a comment?
Yeah, you were kind of talking earlier, but yeah, they were talking about tipping culture when we first started.
Oh, what does it say? At my glass, I can't see.
They were at a movie theater and they had a tip option at the movie. Just kind of surprised.
Oh, they added a tip onto the movie?
Yeah, they added a tip. I think they asked for the tip. They had a tip option. Like, if you buy a movie ticket, like you bought a movie ticket, now should you now tip somebody? Just cause.
Insane.
So, crazy.
Insane. Is it going? I was trying to play the trying to play the outro. We gotta play the song. Hold on one second. Let me share. We're gonna share, but yeah, we really appreciate everybody who stopped by. And let's see. I'm gonna go ahead and play the outro, and it just takes so long. Oh, because we're live. We're live. It's showing us live. I'll have to fix that for next time. But here we go. And a special shout out to oh, it didn't go.
Yes, I don't think it's gonna work like that.
Working. Hold on. Maybe I have the wrong hold on, maybe I have the wrong one. And I'm gonna make this work. I gotta get this together and be able to. Okay, share screen. Fraud department. Yeah. Okay. The fire. There we go. Share.
Wake up, it's time to see. To go the system, set your mind free. Normal lesson. On a mission. Exposing frauds, revealing the illusion.
This is the fraud department.
Open your eyes for the conscious, for the bold, for the free. We break the chains.
Matrix. We go to Matrix. We go to the fraud department.